Dan Perry here with another C++ tutorial for Dan on Tech. This tutorial we're going to talk about the main portion of the program and the main function. Now, we've talked about comments at the top, we've talked about the include files. Every C++ program has to start with a main routine, and the main routine is where execution of the program begins. Since we're using Microsoft Visual Studio, they tend to name their main routine by default a little bit differently than most the standards. And so in the case of the Visual Studio, the main routine is called _T main. In most implementations of C++ or C, it's main. So it doesn't matter in the Microsoft environment which way it goes. After that point, inside the parentheses, and all functions after the name of the function will have an open close parentheses. There may or may not be information or parameters inside it. Again, by default, the Visual Studio puts two parameters in. It puts in an int called argc, and we'll talk about what int is and those. And then the second one is a pointer. We've not talked about pointers, but a pointer called tcar, or a tcar pointer, rather, that to an array of variables called argv. And we'll talk about arrays later as well. What these parameters do is allow us, if we're running this program from a command prompt, to type the name of the program followed by one or more pieces of information, and it will pass that information directly into the program when the program executes. Now, we've already talked about this is almost the easiest you can do in the way of a C++ program because it doesn't do anything. You've got your main function, and all it does is return 0 to the operating system saying the program executed correctly. If I run it, it's going to run. I'll get in just a few seconds, I'll get a command prompt come up, says press any key to continue, and it ran properly. Now, because we're not going to typically have any arguments when we do ours, I'm going to take out that part, and I'm going to take out the part inside the parentheses. So now we just have int main, and then a return 0. This will also run, and so if I build it, we're going to get the same results. Press any key. We get that because, once again, we're not doing anything inside except returning to the operating system saying it completed properly, but this time main is the name that traditionally is used in C and C++, and there are no parameters, nothing we're passing it, so we've got an empty open close parentheses in the function name. Now, after our function, we would then, our beginning of functions, we've got our name, we have an open and a close curly brackets, you see. Every function after the name of the function and the parameters, the close parentheses part, will have an open curly brackets, and every open curly brackets has to have a close. That's also true about parentheses. Anytime you've got an open parentheses, you have to have a close, so we have to have that pair of open, that's the beginning of the function, and close, that's the end of the function. Now I'm going to go ahead and throw a line of code in here, and go ahead and put it in now. Here it says cout. We'll talk about the cout command in, I believe, the next video. But the cout is, in short, the console out, or the output to the screen. The less thans are piping symbols, we'll talk about more, and in quotes, hello world. The \n, we'll see, takes a new line, so we've added some output to it. If I run it now, it outputs the phrase hello world. The cursor comes down to the next line and stops. So Every program will have a routine called main, or in the case of the Microsoft, that they will use the _tmain often. It may have some information in the parentheses, then an open curly brackets, your code, and a closed curly brackets. In this case, we just told it to print out hello. Normally, the last line or the last thing in the main routine is a return 0 saying the program terminated, it's over, it's finished, and it terminated properly. There weren't any errors. So, okay, now we'll go ahead and stop here, and in the next video, I'm going to start talking about the cout command.